Peace be upon you all and welcome to the channel. In this tutorial video series, I will be attempting to teach the viewer the Arabic language, which is my native tongue. But before we start, a brief disclaimer: I am not an expert in the Arabic language. I mainly gain knowledge in Arabic, whether it is pronunciation or grammar, from my studies in the Quran. So I will keep this at a beginner level. Perhaps I can add later on, I can add extra videos depending on viewer requests about a particular subject. But I will try to cover the basics of Arabic so that you are able to formulate sentences, understand what people are saying, understand what you read. Of course, it will not be at an advanced or an intermediate level, but hopefully it will enable you to at least be able to read beginner-friendly books or literature. With that, we will start with the alphabet or the letters. As you can see here, we have the letters written in Arabic and then the name of each letter in Arabic, followed by the name of each letter in English. This list, alongside the articulation points drawing, I will either leave the link for you in the description below, or if I am unable to find the link, I will leave it as a Google Drive or OneDrive link for everyone to access it easily. So we will start with the drawing of each letter individually. We will cover each letter individually, combined with its pronunciation. Then I will show you a diagram for the articulation points in hopes that it would help you articulate or enunciate the letter clearly and easily. But before we get started, since this is an Arabic video tutorial, I would like to greet everyone with an Arabic greeting, but it is not really Arabic, it is an Islamic greeting, but it is in Arabic. So I would like to greet everyone with these words. And do not worry, we will study how each letter is written within a word. Everything will come soon, do not worry. I apologize if my handwriting is terrible. I know it is. I am trying to write as neatly as possible. So this word means peace in Arabic. The word alaykum is divided into two words. This is ala, which we will cover in the preposition lecture, means on or upon depending on the context. Here it would be upon, in contextually speaking. The second half is actually a suffix, which indicates a pronoun, and we will cover all the suffixes and the prefixes that connote pronouns when we start the pronoun lecture by itself. This is kum is the suffix for you, but plural, so more than two people. If I am talking to a group and I would like to say on you or upon you, I would say alaykum. So this would be the accusative form of you, but we will put here plural. And in Arabic, plural is more than two people, so three or more, because when we cover the pronouns, we will study that there is a singular, plural only for two people and plural for more than two people. When you see the word, the letter waw here at the beginning of a word, it means and we will cover that in its separate lecture, God willing. Then we have rahmah, which means mercy. The word Allah is for Allah, which is the name of God in Islam. Wow, again here, this is and. Here is another word divided into two parts. This first part here, barakat, means blessings. Or I believe the term is good tidings as well. The ha here, this suffix here, is the accusative form of he. So it would be, not accusative, sorry, the possessive pronoun of he, which is his. But since we are speaking about God, out of respect, we capitalize the letter. Actually, this looks a bit ugly. Sorry, I am using the graphics tablet and it is a bit difficult for me. I prefer using the mouse. So in its entirety, the greeting would be peace upon you, which is plural, and may, which is not in the greeting, but to translate from Arabic to English, this would actually be rational to put contextually. May Allah's mercy and I'll need to oh, I don't have any room. Okay, so how do we erase here? Eraser. So I'll just erase this part here to make room. Actually, I'll just erase all of it to make room. Technology is not my forte, unfortunately, and I am using a program similar to Photoshop called Clip Studio, originally called Manga Studio, if I recall correctly. So I honestly do not know how to increase the canvas size without starting anew. Then, let's see if I can pull this upwards. And, okay, maybe copy and paste, perhaps? That does not work. So how do I move this? Auto select, maybe. Okay, and move it. Okay. Let's see. And then move it upwards. And perhaps... Okay, deselect. You know what? I think I'll just use Paint for this. So I'll write the words in English here for you, the definition in English. It will be peace be upon you and may Allah's blessing and mercy, or you could say mercy and blessings first, and you can, change the location of mercy and switch it with blessings, be upon you. So that is the translation of our greetings in English. It's a bit longer than in Arabic, as you can see, but that is the full definitive definition of the greeting. I apologize if I took too long with this. I just wanted to start the lesson with a proper greeting. So, I tried using Paint before to practice before I started this lecture, but I found that it was a bit annoying to use when it came to writing the letters. So I'll just return to my program here, and hopefully I have enough room. I'll just write smaller then. So we will get started with our first letter of the alphabet. I'll just write it here. It's a straight line, like so. And this letter is known as Alif. This letter, because Arabic is one of the languages known as Lectiones Matris, and I hope I am pronouncing this correctly. It's Latin for mother of language. This means that in Arabic there are letters that are used as both consonants and vowels. Alif is the first letter of the alphabet. It is also, it can act as both a consonant and a vowel. So how are we able to differentiate between Alif as a consonant and Alif as a vowel? There is an accent that appears above an Alif, and it is a very common accent, shaped, you could say it is shaped as a mirror image of the number 2, the Arabic numeral 2. Somewhat similar to it. This is called Hamza. This accent is referred to as Hamza. Now, here is how you differentiate between Alif as a consonant and Alif as a vowel. Do not worry, we will cover the actual enunciation once we shift towards the articulation point image. Also, next lecture, God willing, we will cover the diacritics. So we will also emphasize on the pronunciation. So do not worry if I seem to be passing by the pronunciation quickly while listing the letters. We will come to it later on. Choose the pen tool. Delete this and this. Now here is how to differentiate. If you see an Alif come by itself in text, it is a vowel. However, if you see it come with an accent on top of it, it becomes a consonant. That is how you differentiate between an Alif vowel and an Alif consonant. In case people are unaware of the differences between a vowel and a consonant, at least in Arabic, I do not know if it has the same definition in English. Vowels are letters that are elongated within a word. So, for example, if I want to say the word door in Arabic, I would say bab. And here is the vowel right there for elongation. Do not worry, we will cover vowels and consonants in detail in the diacritic section, because for you to understand how to speak Arabic properly, we need to take the diacritics first and the types of diacritics and also the types of hamzas, because some hamzas are absent depends on the script used to write Arabic. Some people simply eliminate a certain type of hamza while others actually write it. We will talk about it later, do not worry. So for the letter alif, this is how it is written. A stick or a number 1 with or without the hamza depending on whether or not it is a consonant or a vowel. Just delete all of this. And I will also be attaching writing exercises where you will see a dotted image of the letter. In this way you can print these sheets and trace along the dotted lines to practice drawing or writing the letter, in addition to what you see on the screen. So I'll just erase this, and so that's P and that's E, the shortcuts. Okay, I'll write it here for the full list. Next, we have the letter B. So alif, you can consider it as A in the Latin alphabet or in English. For B, the second letter is B, and it is drawn like so. A plate, or at least that is what we call it in Egyptian slang, a plate. And then you draw the edges, so I guess you could call it a pan instead of a plate, with the two edges like so, and the fire beneath it, or this dot right here. A piece of trivia: in Arabic, modern Arabic, you see dots and you see diacritics. However, in ancient Arabic, or back in the old ages, Arabic did not have any dots or diacritics. The reason they were added was to help non-Arabic speakers who have become Muslims understand and speak and also write the language, because it was a bit confusing for them. So they had to devise a method for non-Arabic speakers, non-Arabic Muslims, to be able to read and write in Arabic. And in English, it will be written as so. Ba, not ba, ba. And to help remind you, here is a mnemonic. Remember the word bad in English, but remove the D. That is the pronunciation. Ba. Ba. So erase this and select the pen tool and write it here. Hopefully I can fit everything. That's the B letter in Arabic. Now for the T letter. And the Arabic letters are not organized as the English letters. In terms of order, they mirror the Hebrew letters. However, the alphabetical order was changed as time progressed from the same order as the Hebrew letters to the order that we have now. But historically speaking, I do not know why there was a change. Third letter is also a pan, sorry. The edges, the flat part, and then close the edge with two dots at the top. You could think of it as somewhat of a smiley face or a smiley emoji. And in English, it will be written as so. Te. That mirrors the T in English. So we will erase this and write it here. Do not worry, I will be providing the full list of letters in the description below, or you can screenshot each letter after I draw it and the full list later on. It is entirely up to you. The fourth letter, exactly the same shape as the two before it, the pan-shaped. Instead of 2 dots, it would be 3 dots. This letter is called the, and notice that I am placing my tongue between my teeth, upper and lower. The. The. In English, it would somewhat be THA, but if you say the word that, it is not the same. Let me see if I can recall a word that has the exact same enunciation that I am looking for. For example, the word thought. Thought. But when you wish to remember it or compare it to the, just ignore this part and turn the O to A. The. Thought. The. Okay. Remove this part. There will be letters that have no counterpart in English. Those will be the difficult ones to practice. However, with practice comes permanence. So do not worry about that at all. 1, 2, 3. Next comes a letter that is strangely shaped. I always think of it as a camel's head for some reason. That is how I normally describe it when I teach Arabic. It starts off as a hill with one short side and a long side. Then from this point, you drag it across, then curve like so, with a dot inside. This letter is called Jim, not Jim. That is incorrect. It is Jim. You can almost hear a D before the J. If it helps you to write the D before the J, go ahead. If you are able to enunciate it without the D, it is up to you how you wish to write it in English. The letter is called Jim. Jim. And to help you remember that, the word jump. It is not jump, it is jump. So simply remove this and add the eem part to it. And that is the letter, Jim. So we will remove all of these. And then switch to pen. This will be a bit difficult to write. There we go. G. Normally, the top part is smaller than the bottom part. It would be like so. Let me see if I can write it that way in such a small space. There we go. It went a bit larger than expected, but this is how the letter is shaped. The letter after this one is extremely difficult for non-Arabic speakers because it does not exist in the Latin alphabet. However, drawing it is extremely easy because it is the same as this one. Going for the hill, one side is short, the other side is long, and it drops down. Then you go across and curve. And as always, the top part or the head is larger than the body. Now, in the list, that I will be attaching in the description below will have this letter written in English as so, he. I will not write this for you in this video because this is a bit misleading. It has the same, similar articulation point to another letter which is actually called he. However, this letter cannot be transliterated in English, so I will say it and hopefully it is clear on the microphone. The letter is he. Ha, ha. And to help with the pronunciation, the best I can think of in terms of examples would be the sound that people make after, when you see in advertisements, at least back home, that is what they do. I do not know if they have such a reaction in Western advertisements. When you see someone drinking Coca-Cola, for example, or 7-Up, once they finish drinking, you hear the sound, ah. That sound right there, that is the letter ha. But instead of saying it ah, simply say it ha. It comes from the top part of the pharynx, just before it enters the esophagus and the trachea. But like I said, I will not write it as an H because that will cause people to remember ha instead of ha. This letter may require frequent practice before you are able to enunciate it flawlessly, which is quite alright. When I teach non-Arabic speakers or even Arabic speakers that have lost their roots with their language, it takes them time to pronounce the letter correctly, but with practice they are able to pronounce it fluently. Even English speakers, they are able to pronounce it. So do not give up on yourself. It simply requires time. That is it. Next letter is the same as the previous two, but the dot will go on the top here. This letter is normally transliterated as KHA. The letter is called kha. Kha. I do not believe there is a word in English that has such an enunciation. So the best I could think of in terms of an example to help you pronounce this letter is the spitting sound. If someone is preparing phlegm in their throat, the that sound right there, that is the kha sound. And notice the difference between kha and ha. This is a light letter, this is a heavy letter, hence why it is kha, not kha. Kha is incorrect, it is kha. Remember, heavy letters have low pitch to them, as opposed to light letters. They are somewhat soft. So ha, kha. So we will erase these. I could have used Control Z next time, if I remember. This video will be somewhat long, I apologize. I like to be descriptive and detailed in case people require time to process information. So I apologize in advance to those who are able to grasp the information quickly. But I teach as if I'm teaching to myself, and since I tend to take time processing information, teaching with such a slow-paced style is best for me. Now, so we will draw this, and do not forget the dot at the top. Next letter is the D letter in Arabic, and that is this letter. You will find some books have it written at a slanted angle like that. That is the computer font. It is up to you if you wish to write it like so or a simple right angle like so. It is up to you. Both are correct. No one will reprimand you if you do not draw an acute angle or if you draw the right angle. The letter is called dal. Dal. And that is the D sound. Remember, it is dal, not dal. So if you're pronouncing the word, what was the type of breed for that dog? Dalmatian. It is a bit heavier, slightly heavier than Dalmatian. It is dal. Dal. So undo, and undo that too. And it will be like so. Then the letter's brother or sister, but in Arabic the word letter is masculine, which we will cover later on when we study nouns. We will know that in Arabic nouns are either masculine or feminine, as opposed to English or German, for example, where they have a he, a she, and an it. I do not think French has an it, if I recall. I have not spoken French in a while, so I have forgotten it. Dal's brother is drawn exactly the same, the acute angle with the curve, or you can draw it with a pointed angle, or the right angle. The only difference is the dot above it. That is called zal, and that is the actual THA sound you hear in most English words. Like, for example, the word the, th, th. It is similar to the, but not the same. Also, the word then, the word that. All of these words have the letter zal in them. Just remember, the letter ends with an L, not with a T. Okay, Control Z. And we will write it next to its brother. I am writing it with the curvature in hopes of having it compact and also neat at the same time. Next letter is the R sound in English, though it is a bit heavier than the R in English and French and German too. This letter is written either a straight line like so, and then a straight line at a slanted angle, or a curved line like so, provided that you are able to highlight the difference between the head and the tail or the body. And some people in the cursive script form of the letter, they simply write it like so. I would not recommend this unless you are writing in cursive, because if you're writing like this, it may confuse certain people. I tend to write it with a curve, sometimes to highlight the difference between the head and the tail. When I am teaching, I write it like so. This is how I normally write it. As I said, it is up to you. If you can write it as so, and hopefully no one is confused by it. This letter is called Ra. Notice the heavy sound. It is not R as in English, or as in German or French. It is Ra. Ra. And if you notice that my tongue is vibrating against my palate multiple times, because a trait of the letter Ra is repetition. I believe in English it is called rolling the R, like in Spanish, if I recall. So if you have to roll your R for the sound, go ahead. It is raw. However, do not roll too much. Do not say raw. That would sound like an engine on a boat. But if it would help you enunciate properly, go ahead. Just remember that when you are speaking or reading, it doesn't have elongated rolling. It is raw, not raw. So draw it like so. Then the letter sister, which is the Z letter, or Z in the American dialect. The same drawing, or the same form, like so, or in cursive like so, but with a dot at the top. Now this letter is called Zay, or perhaps Zay with an E or Zay with a Y, depends on how you wish to enunciate the last letter of the name. And it is pronounced the same as the letter Z. So if you wish to say zoo, that has the letter Zay in it. If you wish to say well, the word zebra, but if you're using the American dialect, and it would be zebra, that also is there. Let's see what else with a Z. Or an X, xylophone, that is also the letter Z. Undo, undo, undo. Move the dots, remove the letter, then write it here with the dot. Next letter is somewhat strange in its form. Think of a 3, but horizontal. So you will draw a 3 lying on its back like so. Then from this part right here, draw a straight line, then do a U-turn. That is the head, and that, the U-turn, is the body. This letter is called seen, or seen. And as you can see from here, it is pronounced the same, in the same manner you would pronounce the past participle form of the verb to be in English. I have seen. Exactly the same. If you wish to use this as a mnemonic, it is up to you what you would like to use to memorize the letter. And with regards to how does it fit on the line or above the line, on beneath the line in notebooks, we will cover that once we tackle how each letter is written at the beginning of the word, in the middle of the word, and at the end of the word. But for now, we're simply covering the name of the letters for this video. The horizontal 3, then the U-turn. And as usual with letters that have heads and bodies, the head is smaller than the body. It's as if you're drawing a figure in a comic book, for example. Unless it is a distorted figure and something like MODOK, I believe it was called, from Marvel. The next letter, the brother, is exactly the same. We will have the horizontal 3, then the U-turn. except we will have the 3 dots. And this letter is known as sheen, which is the SH sound in English. The seen is the S or the C sound in English, if the C is pronounced as an S, not as a K. You can also remember it with the actor Martin or Charlie Sheen, but also the English word sheen. If something is shining, it has a sheen or a glimmer to it. So that is the SH sound. You can also remember it from the word she, the pronoun she, and simply add the NE to it, and that is the letter. Okay, so I do not think I have room, so I will write it here. U-turn, dot, dot, dot. The Triforce. If there are any Legend of Zelda fans watching this. Now comes the most difficult letter. It's saving, sorry about that. Now comes the most difficult letter for a non-Arabic speaker to learn Arabic. It is also somewhat difficult to draw in the beginning, at least that is what I am told. It starts with an oval, except one part of it is curved, the other part is a straight line, like so. Then at the point of contact, you will elongate a straight line just slightly. Probably the same height as the curvature, slightly lower. No one will reprimand you if you go a bit higher, just as long as you do not elongate it too much, because then that looks like another letter that we will cover in a bit. Then the same as seen or sheen. Go from here below, do a U-turn. I cannot, in the list that I will provide, God willing, it will probably have it as sad, but I will not write it here, the same as the letter ha. Oops. Undo the bit too much. It's the same as the letter ha. You cannot transliterate it into English, unfortunately. It is a letter you will have to practice. There is also no word for it in English that is close enough to help with that. This is what we call a heavy seen or a heavy S. This is known as sod. Sod. It is extremely heavy. It's one of the heavy letters in Arabic. If it helps with the enunciation, which we will cover when we take a look at the diagram for the articulation points, have the side of your tongue rub against the molars and the premolars of your teeth while you are trying to enunciate an S. Then purse your lips a bit to help with the articulation. Sod. Sod. And do not worry, we will cover pronunciation again once we look at the diagram, but also when we start diacritics, we will recite the pronunciation for every letter before we continue. And as always, the head is smaller than the body. Then the letter's brother, which is also difficult, unfortunately, and it's the heavy dal or the heavy D, but is drawn the exactly the same, except with a dot at the top. And I cannot really transliterate it in English because there is no English letter or English word that would help with the pronunciation. Just remember, you are pronouncing a D this time, not an S. So instead of saying sod, you're saying bod. Bod. It begins with a heavy D at the beginning and ends with a light D at the end. Bod. Bod. Just like this one. Sod. Ends with a light D at the end, or with a dal. Sod. Bod. These two letters in particular, you will simply have to keep practicing them. Unfortunately, there is no easier way to learn these letters unless you keep practicing and listening. Practicing and listening. Oh, that was a bit long. And I feel that I am thinking of going through the list of letters before each lecture to help also cement the pronunciation within your mind, or at least I hope it would help with that. Next letter is a heavy T, and I cannot also transliterate it into English because it does not exist in the Latin alphabet. Here you will draw the head of the sod, but slightly larger this time, because this is the body but also the head of the letter. You will see what I mean in a bit. So you will draw the oval with one side curved and the other side is flattened. Then from the contact point, you will extend it to the left, not too long. And from here, you will elongate to upwards. Try to keep the length moderate. If you do it too long, it will not look tidy once you actually start connecting the letters to words, to the letters beyond them. So try to keep them moderate. And I will not tell you to measure them with a ruler every time you write them, but when they look neat and manageable to you, that is the length that you will be working with. Once we start writing words and connecting letters to one another, that will probably give you the perspective and the insight you need with regards to the exact length of those two lines, which we will cover after the diacritics lecture, God willing. This letter is a heavy T, so expect to use the similar faculties to what you will use if you're pronouncing a T, but heavier. This letter is called Ta. 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 It's also one of the heavy letters, and as you have probably noticed, the heavy letters will be the difficult ones. Well, some light letters too, but mostly the heavy letters will be somewhat difficult. Ta. Ta. You will see it written as TA, but that says ta, not ta. So I will not write it there for you. I just write it here to remind you that in the list provided, you will see it that way, but do not rely on that pronunciation or that transliteration. So this part will be the largest part of the letter, and possibly the line, the vertical line here will also be somewhat large as well. Then comes the letter's brother, and you probably have guessed it. It has a dot, the exact same art style or drawing, but with a dot. This is a heavy th. A heavy dhal, not th, a heavy dhal. And you'll probably see it as that as well in the list. I do not recall if that is how they transliterate it, but that is also incorrect, or it will confuse you. The letter is called dha. 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 Notice the similarities between dhal and dha. 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 And as you can tell from my voice, it is one of the heavy letters as well. So we will draw it. Okay. We will draw it like so. If this part extends while you're drawing the oval, do not worry about it as long as it does not extend too long. Next letter, it is not a heavy letter, but it is somewhat difficult because it does not have a letter for it in English, so the dichotomy does not exist, unfortunately. It looks a mirror image of the Arabic numeral 3. So instead of drawing it to the left, you will draw it to the right, open to the right. The head is the small part, so you will draw this part right here of the 3 small. Then this part will be the larger part, like so. So you can think of it as a mirror image of an enlarged 3, or a 3 that eats a lot of lipids and carbohydrates. This letter is called Ayn. Ayn, not Ain. This is probably how people tend to translate it. That is Ain. That is incorrect. It is Ayn. 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 It also emanates from the pharynx, which we will cover in the anatomical diagram in a bit. The letter is called Ayn, which is also the same word for eye in Arabic, or water/stream. So we will draw it. Small head, big body. The letter's brother, same drawing, but with a dot. That is the GH sound in English, though it doesn't really exist. So the word ghoul, for example, it is written ghoul, but it should be pronounced ghoul, which is the GH sound. Unfortunately, it is not used in English because the letter does not exist in the Latin alphabet. So I will leave it there as a reminder, but the letter is called Ghayn. Remember, Ayn and Ghayn. This is a heavy letter as well. Ayn is a light letter or a soft letter. Ghayn. Ghayn. That is a heavy letter. To help with the enunciation, if you gargle, that should help as an exercise. The gargling sound, that is this part right here. That is what we want. So if gargling would help you practice, go ahead and gargle to be able to enunciate. So while you are gargling, preferably after you spit the water out so you do not choke, after you gargle, say the letter. So it's ghayn. Ghayn. So let us remove these and write it here with its brothers, or I should say his brothers, because it does not exist in Arabic. I seem to have difficulties writing the letter. Okay. And the dot. Next letter is a very lovely, very easy, very simple letter. It is drawn as a pot, but with an extra addition on the right side. And I say on the right side because in Arabic you write from the right to the left, similar to manga, as opposed to the Latin languages where you write from left to right. So you will start with a circle, then at the right side draw the edge or the right edge of the pot, then the flattened part, then end it with the small edge on the left. If you draw it to the same height as the circle, that is quite alright, though I highly advise that this part is lower than the circle to avoid confusion with another letter that is coming after this letter. Then put the dot. This letter is the F sound in English. Fe. Or if you would like to use the PH sound, fe. So when you say the word fat, fe. Or if you use the word fat, which I believe is a musical term or a term that indicates beauty, I do not really know. Fe. Fe. There is also another letter, though I do not know its origin because it does not exist in the Arabic language. A fa with 3 dots instead of 2. That is the V sound, ve. However, I feel this is probably from possibly ancient Assyrian or Sumerian, perhaps. But that is a piece of trivium I wanted to share with everyone. And it's saving, okay. But do not worry about the fa with the 3 dots. No one will ever ask you about that letter. But if you would like to reveal your talents amidst Arabic speakers, go ahead and use that piece of information. With 1 dot. Then comes a heavy letter which looks similar to fa, except instead of the flattened part, it will be a U-turn. So we will draw a circle, then from the right side, drop down, make a U-turn. Put 2 dots and you're done. Once we study the proportions or the relativity between the letter and the line you are writing on in a notebook, for example, you will understand how long you should make the U or how short it should be, and so on and so forth. You do not have to worry about that now, as long as you're able to write the letter or draw the letter and pronounce it as well. Do not worry about the pronunciation, it will come with time. You will find yourself excelling in writing before speaking. Perhaps it depends on the person. From my experience, the writing part will become easier as well as the reading part. The listening part possibly as well will improve, but the speaking will probably be the last part that improves. But do not give up on yourself, and hopefully these tutorials help with the speaking part as well. This letter is called Qaf, and I believe it is somewhat similar to the Q in English, though I do not think it is the same. The letter is called Qaf, Qaf, and this is when the letter departs the pharynx and makes its way downwards towards the throat itself, at least if I recall correctly from the diagram. I mean, when I hear it, that is where it comes from, but I could be wrong anatomically. The letter is called Qaf. I am sorry, Qaf, Qaf. And I do not think there is a word or a phrase that I can recall that would help with the pronunciation of the letter. So hopefully with practice you will be able to pronounce it easily. Qaf. Then the K letter of Arabic. So what you will start with is a long vertical line similar to the alif line. Then at the end where the line of the notebook is, that is when you will move to the left horizontally, a long line that you can have it the same length or slightly longer than the vertical line. It is up to you. Then remember the edge of the pot, as in ba, ta, tha, and fa, like so. Then we will put the hamza here. This hamza is not the same as the alif hamza. This is a different accent. I do not recall the origin of that accent. As far as I know, it is used to differentiate this letter from another letter that is coming up. But do not worry about this hamza. It will not affect the kaf in any manner. And when you see it in writing, you are not expected to discriminate between this hamza and that hamza in terms of reading, writing, or speaking, or even listening. This hamza plays no role whatsoever in the pronunciation of the letter. It is simply there for differentiation. And as we said, it is the K in English, and this letter is called kaf. Kaf. You will hear it in words such as key, for example. What else? The name Kyle also has the letter kaf in it. This is kaf. And you can probably notice the similarities in articulation points between kaf and qaf. This is the heavy version of this. This is a heavy K. So we will write it here. And the hamza. Next comes the L letter of Arabic. So what you will do is you will draw an extremely long vertical line and then perform a U-turn. However, this second vertical line, or it could be a curved line, it is up to you how you wish to draw it, must not be longer than this. It should not even be longer than the midpoint. Make sure that if this is the line of your notebook, it is either reaching that line or slightly lower than that. But do not worry about the distances at this junction. When we start actually seeing the relative positions of the letter to the line, that is when we will fine-tune the letter shape. This is called lam, or you can remember it from the English word lamb with a silent B, the animal. Or you can remember it from the Greek letter lambda, or from the Hebrew letter lamed. I do not know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Okay, remove. And here we go. This is the lamb. Next comes a letter which people may find hilarious. It is drawn in multiple fashions. Some people draw a circle with a slanted line, a tangent to that circle. However, the tangent is the same it lands at the same point as the bottom part of the circle. Some people draw it with this line, and then once it reaches this, it drops vertically downwards. And some people draw the circle as so, but instead of the top, they go from the bottom here, a tangent to the left, and then drop downwards, right angle here. It is up to you how you wish to write it. I tend to write it this way. Sometimes I write it this way. This is used for cursive, though the actual cursive form is a dot, then curve, and then drop it to the bottom, but I will exclude this to avoid confusing you for now. So you can use any of these three formats. They are all correct. And if you see in a book or in the exercise sheets that will be provided a different form that appeals to you, please feel free to use it. Do not worry, it will be correct. This letter is the M sound in English, and it is known as meme. And if you browse the internet quite often, you will probably be familiar with this term. Yes, as an internet meme. But that is the letter. That is the name of the letter. If it helps you remember it, that is good. If not, then you can remember it with this spelling, meme. It's also, you find it in the word mean or average, but instead of N, simply put an M there. So to help differentiate it from the other letters, I will write it like so, to give it its presence. Next letter is the N letter, and that is a U-turn below the line with a dot either at the opening or at the top. Some people write it within the U-turn. It is up to you. For the sake of this tutorial, I will leave it at the opening. This letter is known as noon, or the word noon, which tends to be 12 p.m. or meridian, noon. Noon, the N sound. So I will draw the letter, the U-turn, and the dot. Next comes the letter that we discussed here with regards to the transliteration of the letter ha, which is ha. This is actually written as HA.